Oh shit, we're live, Brandi. You there? Can you hear
Yeah,
me?
what is this? What
What?
you you told
We're,
me
we're
we're talking about icons.
yeah, icons of the
He's not
paranormal. That's what I'm.
he is not an icon.
Zach,
No. No.
Zachary Alec. Yeah, icons of the paranormal. It's supposed to be about the greatest icon in the paranormal field, Zachary Alexander Bagans.
No. That is that no. No, 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 no. 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 He is he
But Brandi, he's such a sexy man. Have you
No,
seen him with his shirt off?
I see it. No.
Let me remind you, Brandi. I think you forgot. Okay, here's the thing. There's plenty of people in the paranormal world, right? We've been to conferences, we met people, but how
Right,
many
right.
of them look like this with their shirts off, Brandi? Does Tex look like this with his shirt off? Do I look like this with my shirt off? Does anybody in any of these conferences look like this with their shirt off?
I'll
I mean,
pass. I will pass. I am so sorry,
he's
but I
he's the
will
number one guy.
pass.
He's the number one guy, right? He's the only guy in the entire paranormal community that's the actual household name. Like people who aren't even into the paranormal still know who he is, right? If you
Oh,
got
you let me tell you something. Now, my children, when they were younger, they would watch that show quite a bit. Now, Ghost Adventures, they'd watch it. You know what they called that show? They call it the Dude Bro Show because all you heard was like
yes,
dude and bro. That's all you heard the whole entire
yes,
show.
he's like one of us, Brandy. Don't you ever say dude or bro? I say dude and bro all the time. He's like one of us.
You don't do that in ghost hunting.
Okay, there was one episode, or straight up, right? There was this one episode where they were investigating and someone was getting like paranormally attacked. And what does the Baganator do? That's what I call him, the Baganator. And what does the Baganator do? He rips his shirt off, right? And he's like, "Come after me, bro." And then the
Oh
demon runs away,
yeah.
right? Yo, he chases off demons just by ripping off his shirt. Yo, Jesus doesn't even do that, Brandy.
Because he thinks that everything's a demon.
Yeah, this dude
Every
like
place has a
Jesus.
demon. Everything's demon. He's always getting possessed. I mean,
Yeah.
I love the part where he's like in a hallway, and I can't remember what episode this was. He's in a hallway and he bends over and he's got his muscles flexing and he's like, "Get
Yes.
out! Leave me alone!"
Yes. Yes. I was like, yes, Brandy. Yes. Yes. When I was watching that part, because I remember that part, I was like, yes, you tell them. You show those ghosts those muscles. You let them know who they're messing with. Because this is 100% man right here, living flesh. All right. And maybe that's why he's got such power over ghosts, because he reminds them that, yeah, at the end of the day, yeah, you're dead. You want to know what living flesh looks like? You want to see the peak of living fleshiness? And then off comes the
Y-
shirt.
Because he's always provoking them. It's no wonder they're always mad at him.
Yeah.
He's always doing that. I bet you can't do that to me, you coward.
I must agree with him, Brandy. I must agree with him there. And I'm always like,
On
yeah,
a
you
different
tell
note,
them. You tell them, Zachary Baggins. You let those ghosts know, right? So
right?
yeah, Ghost Adventures, right, is the number one show, right? So
Is
of
it the only
everyone,
one left now?
there's so many of them, right?
No, no. All the good ones are now off the air.
Oh,
Well, except for Ghost Hunters. Ghost Hunters is still on. But seriously, you didn't hear all about that in the news and all the stuff they were saying that Zach Baggins like pushed all of these other shows out, like uh, Destination Fear, which was which is a good one. But gosh, there was a couple other ones. Well, Nick Groff left Ghost Adventures because he was having an issue with him. And
what did he say? What the issue was? See, I didn't follow any of this drama, so I'm not privy
well,
to this.
Nick Goff just said that he was just really hard to work with, that he just, it was his way or the highway. And he'd had enough, so he left very early on from the show. This is back when Zach was very young, but I
Or
mean,
more ways than one. Hey guys, by the way, I just wanted to just say for the record, I am 100% heterosexual. I like the ladies. Believe me, I do. It's just that I am comfortable in my sexuality, so I can admire or have respect for a man who takes care of his grooming and his physique, and also happens to be, I don't know, the most famous man in the paranormal world. Right? I mean, think about it. All
no,
right. We're in this scene, right? But we're just the YouTubers. We're the minor leaguers, right? All the YouTube people, they're down here.
yeah,
When
we're
you're
down
on,
here.
yeah, we're down here. But if you're on cable TV, oh, you up here,
Oh,
right?
you're
And of
way over the top.
all the cable TV people, who is the king of the hill? The Baganator.
Right. Right.
Therefore, he is the king of the paranormal field by those metrics.
Mhm.
Right?
But I do have to honestly say, I'm not gonna lie here. I did like Zach in the beginning. I really did. I really liked his stuff. There's a lot more fakery. There's a word.
What was the turning point for you? When did you flip on him?
I think it was after Nick left.
Oh,
I think
after
it was,
Nick left?
it was one season after Nick left, and it was pretty good. And then next thing you know, everything's a demon. He's always getting possessed.
Mhm.
There's always orbs flying into him. But I do have to say, my favorite one on that show is Aaron Goodwin. He's my favorite. Only because he's like me. It's like, oh, you want to send somebody down to that dark, damp basement all by themselves? Oh, well, send him. Well, that's what they do to me. Send her. She'll go.
Oh, so you can relate to him.
I can.
Oh, check it
And
out.
I've watched several interviews with these guys over the years, and believe it or not, they've all said that they've had an attachment of some sort, and I believe it. Especially the places they've gone in, because I've been into a lot of those places they've been in, and I believe it. If you get in there goofing around and not taking things seriously and covering your hind end, well, that's what's going to happen.
Really?
But
Oh, because I've been
yeah.
on like 4 investigations. Whoops. Whoops.
I told you we're going to take you out. We're going to get you somewhere.
Did I ever tell you
To
about
have
the
a
time I
good
farted?
experience.
Did I ever tell you about the time I actually farted on a ghost? Like literally
No.
farted on a ghost.
No,
Okay.
please tell me. Please tell me.
Okay, so this was at the Hoover House, a famously haunted house. It's in Waynesboro, Pennsylvania. It's the town next to Gettysburg.
Uh-huh.
And this place is haunted bed and breakfast. They have live investigations there all the time. And they were giving us a tour, and one of my friends who had toured there previously, she told me that when they were in the basement used to be like a kind of like an illegal speakeasy back when during the Prohibition days.
Yeah.
And
Which is common.
there was apparently, yeah, and this was a ghost of a man who had murdered a woman in the alley behind a house, because the back exit, it kind of resembles like an alley that goes out. And apparently he had like murdered this woman, choked her to death. And he was the ghost of this man, right, from the 20s. And my friend who had visited there on a previous investigation, she was sitting at this one, she took a picture of this one area of the basement. And in the picture, there was a photo of a shadow person.
Wow.
And earlier she had sat there in that exact same spot, and she was like getting choked, like from the inside of her throat. So when I went there, I went to the exact same spot with the tour group, and then the other guys were heading off, and because I was like, oh, is this the guy? This is the spot, right? This is where it happened. This is where the shadow person was. This is where my friend got choked. Okay. And then the group was going to move to the next spot, but I was like, hold on, guys. They're like, Donny, what are you doing? And I'm just like, I'm just gonna stand here and just kind of look around. They're like, oh, okay. And then when they left, when no one was looking, I let out a wet one right on that spot. I stuck my ass out and everything. And I was like, yeah, smell that, you lady murderer. Fuck you. And then I walked off. And I had eaten like gas station hot dogs on the trip up there. So it was
Oh
especially gnarly.
no.
Oh, yeah, be kind. Yeah,
Processed
I told you
food.
that
Yeah.
story. Yeah, she knows the story. It's a pretty famous story. The time that Donnie fart. It wouldn't be the last time Donnie would fart on a ghost, but that was my first time. But he deserved it. Don't you agree? He kind of deserved it.
It would, yeah, kinda. Yeah,
Yeah. He
absolutely.
murdered a woman. He was like a bad dude. So, yeah, I farted on him. I gave him what he deserved.
Well, it sounds like
But
he didn't like women anyway, so he deserved it.
what was the most like messed up thing or disagreeable thing you saw a person, without any names, you saw a person do during an investigation yourself? Like, where you're like, this person needs to be removed from the group.
Well, I mean, there's several things. First of all, it's like a lot of the places I go, they depend on the money that they get for
Mhm,
restoration and to keep
mhm,
everything going and blah blah, keep the lights on basically.
mhm.
Um, but I've seen them take things from locations, which
Mm,
I'll tell you why in a minute. You never do that.
yeah.
I've seen them
So,
like taking bags of chips and just eating all over the place and dropping crumbs and all kinds of stuff. But I think that the worst thing is provoking, especially when you're in a situation where you don't need to provoke. There,
mhm.
you're in a location to say where a a teenager died from poisoning, whatever. You don't need to provoke that spirit. You really don't. And yelling and screaming is not going to get you anything better than, you know,
I've seen
what you
one guy
had.
do that. Yeah, I've seen one guy do that. On an investigation, the first one I ever did, where he was just like, "Yeah, I don't care. I'm not scared of ghosts." Like acting all tough. He was there to impress the ladies. It was a big group, and let me tell you, that dude got fucked up by the ghost. I was like, it was my first investigation, first time I ever met other paranormal people in my life, and this was it was with the Confessionals, Tony Merkel's podcast. He did like this.
Uh-huh.
He was actually the first friend I think I made in this field, honestly, because this is before I even found out about YouTube. Anyway, this guy who had been challenging and like just talking all this crap about the ghost. So we split up into like 3 groups and we're investigating this mansion, right? And we're doing like lights out, just flashlights, EVPs, right? We're
Uh,
investigating all of us, and it's like me, Tony, my friend Laura, some of you guys may know, and this group of people. While we're doing an EVP session, we hear all this commotion outside. So we run out, and everyone in the team is out in the hallway now trying to figure out what's going on. And the dude that was talking all this shit, he is crying. He is like sobbing uncontrollably. Like like if you had smacked like a 4-year-old child, like how bad they would cry, like that. It was like
right,
an ugly, loud cry, right? And the guy was
right,
like just hysterically crying. And then later on, he described that like when he was talking all this shit, all of a sudden, because when he was talking all this shit is when the mediums, who were kind of like the caretakers of the place, were giving their lecture, right? So this guy was being obnoxious and being braggadocious in front of the ladies. So the mediums, they kind of look at each other and they kind of had like this knowing look, like, oh yeah, this guy's about to get fucked up, right?
yeah, because they can
So
hear stuff you can't.
this guy says that he felt like the arms of like a little girl, like cold, like ice cold, like wrapped around him like a hug, and all of a sudden like this emotion just burst out where he couldn't control himself, right? So everyone's like, what the hell? Me and Tony are kind of looking at each other like, yo, this is I'm literally witnessing a person getting directly fucked up by a ghost right in front of my eyes. I was like,
Right.
holy crap. Right? This guy
That is
was like
scary.
being attacked psychically by a ghost right in front of my face, right in front of all of our faces. This was the same guy who was like talking all this shit during the whole trip, right? And he wasn't even there for paranormal. He was there as a Bigfoot experiencer. He had
Uh-huh.
experienced Bigfoot once on a hike, so he wasn't even interested in ghosts. So that's why he was kind of acting that way. And for the rest of the night after that cry session, this guy's like catatonic. He's like in the corner, not even moving, not even responding to like what anyone is saying. And he's just like, and I was like, yo, I never seen a ghost mess up a dude like that, like right in front of my face.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah.
That was a wild experience. I will
Yeah.
never forget
I've
that.
had something similar, but not, I wasn't doing all that. We were using the Estes method, and we were in Waverly Hills Sanitarium in Kentucky.
Mhm.
And that place is known for tuberculosis, and people were just
Yeah.
dying all the time. So they had me. I had a blindfold over my eyes. I had the earphones in. I could only hear the spirit box. That's all I could hear. I couldn't hear anything
Mhm.
else. And as they were asking questions, I couldn't see. Um, but they were using a thermal camera on me to watch me in the dark,
Mhm.
and you could actually see where I was being touched, like on my shoulders and on my legs, because everything, it would have just a circle of blue that would go super, super dark blue, and then it would go back to, yellow or red, depending on where it was near my skin. And you've
Mhm.
seen that happening, at different times. But the feeling that came over me at the time was like super sadness. I mean, I was crying, and I mean ugly cry, and the
Oh, you
snotting
got hit
and
like that too? So
oh
you got hit
yeah,
like that.
it was just overwhelming, because,
Oh, damn.
I opened myself up to communicate, but it was just the feeling, the overall feeling of what was going on in that particular area that I was in. And it was just so sad, and you just felt sad with them, and I mean, just tore
It
up
was like
sad.
someone shot you with a sadness beam, right? Like you
Yeah.
didn't even know why you were sad. It was just like,
Oh, I knew why I was sad. I felt that deep, deep to my core. I felt why I was sad, because it was just all the people that were just left there, and were dying, and they put them in this place saying that they have the cure, and then they didn't
mhm,
have the cure, and these people, that's why the death tunnel was created at that place, because they
mhm,
were taking people out at night. They were dying so quickly, just by the hundreds each night, that they were shooting them, they were taking them down the tunnel, and then they would just have, vehicles, the cars and everything out there waiting for the bodies, because they just waiting,
so you just
because they
kind of
knew they
felt
were
all
coming.
that avalanche of emotion all at once.
Yeah, yeah, and it was terrible. I mean, you could absolutely feel that when you're open to it.
Mm.
So, but if you're being like him and being kind of a, let's just say, a jackass, if you're being a
Mhm.
jackass,
Yep.
they're probably like, here, let me show you something. Let me just lay my hands on you, and feel a little bit of this, which probably opened his eyes. Do you know if he's ever been ghost hunting since then, or has he just,
No, Tony and I actually think he might be dead. We do know that
oh,
he eventually wound up getting in trouble with some bad people in Vegas. Um, and no one's kind of heard from him. My theory is that he might be in jail. This guy was a bit of a scumbag too. I'm pretty sure he was on some kind of amphetamine at the time because he was a little too
oh,
hyper, if you know what I
Lord.
mean.
And yeah,
And
and the thing about that is that when
yeah,
you're under the influence, those things can hit you even stronger, because you have no control over your
yeah.
own emotions.
And he was flirting really hard with like some of the women there, but the women were all like married with like kids, and they were just there because they really loved the paranormal. And he was trying
Right.
real hard to try to, yeah. So this
And
guy overall was a scumbag. Yeah, he's probably dead. We
Well,
think.
yeah,
Yeah, we think.
maybe he got mixed up with Zach in Vegas or something.
Vegas, yes, Zach's museum. Actually,
Yes.
I visited Vegas a couple years ago. I was actually going to try to visit Zach's museum,
Uh-huh.
but I got caught up in some other things. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but I was.
Well,
I,
let me just tell you a story.
okay,
Okay. So the guy who I can't remember his name right now. It's on the tip of my tongue, but I'll probably remember it at 2 a.m. The guy who originally owned the Dybbuk box.
okay.
Okay. He had it in all, and he was actually on our show. He came
Hmm.
on the show with us and told us all about it.
I think I might have
And
seen that one.
yeah, it's a really
Yeah.
cool story. And he was telling us all the bad things, all the bad things, all the bad things. He said that Zach kept bothering him about buying this box, and he wouldn't sell it. He wouldn't sell it. Finally, he sold it. Now, he never told us exactly how much money he sold it for, but
My
I'm
first
I'm pretty
question.
sure.
My first question.
Yeah, that's he wouldn't answer. I wish he would have. But anyway, um but then Zach got a hold of the box, after it was purchased. And the first thing he does is open it. How stupid can you be? How can you open that?
See, to
Knowing
answer
all
that question, to answer that question, Brandy, I have to ask you one quick question. Do you know if at the time when he opened it, did he have his shirt on or off?
he had it on. They were in
Oh,
his museum. They had it on.
okay.
Yeah.
Because then
He had
then
it
he was
on.
powerless. Then that would have been a very bad idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's I don't even understand why you would open something like that. That just after knowing all the things that had happened, I mean,
Mhm.
because that's not the only Dybbuk box that you know
Didn't he buy like this one demonically possessed house?
he did. They did a documentary on it. Hell
Yeah. Yeah, the
House.
house. Not the Sally house. I don't know who
No,
owns
it's
that.
called the Hell House. I think that's what it was called. Now I could be wrong. Somebody can probably
It
correct
was
me
like
in chat. I can't
famously
see it,
bad.
but yeah, but he and there was a family actually living in it.
Hmm.
And I mean, this place was bad news. I'm like, I couldn't live there. That was horrible. But then again, we're talking about
Oh, he had
Zach.
the house destroyed? Oh,
Yes. Yes.
I didn't know that.
It was that bad. But again, with Zach being involved, how much of it was real and how much of it was faked? Now, listening to the people who live there, I believe a lot of it was real.
Hmm.
But when Zach goes in, then it just throws, everything that I thought was real out the window. Um, but he did have it demolished. He really did. Because it was bad. It was real
Hmm.
bad.
So, Brandy, tell us about some of the people you like in this field or the people that you feel are. Because remember, name of the show is about icons in the paranormal, right? Who do you
Yeah.
feel like are
Well,
some of your paranormal icons?
I think my first one would have to be like John Zaffis. If
And
you
I've
don't
got
know
his picture
who,
right here. I'll
yeah,
put it up while you.
John
Okay, continue.
Zaffis is the nephew of Ed and Lorraine Warren. He had a show, I think it was on the Travel Channel or Annie, one of those, but it was the Haunted Collector. And what he does is he would collect all of these haunted items and take them out of people's homes. They would give it to him, and then he keeps it in a personal collection, and it's sealed so it can't do any more harm.
Mhm.
Um, he's still doing it today. Um, last March, I had the great opportunity of meeting him, and I had a blast with him all day. We got to talking that night, and they were having an auction, and him and I were just blabbing back and forth, and they were auctioning off items for a charity, and one of them happened to have been a haunted doll. And this woman who won it took it and gave it directly to him.
The
And she
Baganator.
says, I don't want this. I don't want this. You
Why
can
did she
take it
buy it?
home. She won it at an auction. You buy tickets, and then,
Yeah.
for these certain items, this raffle. I mean, they had an auction and they had a raffle, but this was for the raffle.
Yo, you
And
couldn't
she had
pay
won it
me.
in that. And the person who had sent it to the person in charge of the raffle items, when they received the doll, it came with a kitchen knife, not a butter knife, a kitchen knife within the box, which was very
Oh.
strange. So that night, John had to take that
Mhm.
doll, and he just put it back in the box, and he took it to his room, and then, of course, he went to bed. And I
Hmm.
saw him early the next morning. I was getting some coffee, and I said, "Hey, John," I said, "how'd that doll do?" He goes,
Yeah.
"Eh." He goes, "It's time to get sealed."
Hmm.
So
Yikes.
evidently it was making some weird noises or something, and he's like, "Yeah, no, this has got to get." So he took it home
Hmm.
and put it in his museum. And the Haunted Collector show was actually shot in his own personal museum in his house that is located on his property. I don't know if it's in his house or if it's another shop on his property, but it's there, and he keeps them all on property. So I'm like, no, that's a no for
Man,
me.
you cannot pay me enough to bring a haunted doll into my house. No
N-
way. No
I
way.
have a hard enough time just with dolls in general, um, because there's so many, you know.
Yeah.
But of course,
Mhm.
the Annabelle doll and the Robert doll, and they always talk about these haunted things that they do, and and
Yeah.
and they're pretty severe. And I think that a spirit can attach itself to just
Mhm.
about anything, and why
If I
not a
ever get a
doll?
haunted doll, I'm FedExing that bitch to someone I don't like. That's what I'm doing. Anyway, just because Moon at Noon asked for a better background, this is all for him, folks. Drink it in. Anyway, Brandy, we can still continue the conversation, right?
Yeah, and I don't like it either. So just
Oh, this one? Okay.
yeah, this one here. That I can deal with that because that's totally not him, and I'm okay with that.
Okay. Yeah, I think we all know who it really is. Okay, Brandy, give us your next icon.
That would have to be Jason Hawes.
And I
Jason
got
Hawes
him
would
right
be my
here.
second one.
Now,
Hmm.
this guy, I actually know who he is. The other guy, John
Yeah.
Zaffis, was new to me. I'm not
Hmm.
familiar with his work, but Jason Hawes, first paranormal ghost reality show I ever
Well,
saw.
I think well, yeah, because I think it might have been the second or third one. He was on with Grant Wilson, and
Yeah,
the show was originally known as Taps,
yeah, the
and
first one.
they were the Roto-Rooter guys. You know,
Yeah, they came
um,
in like plumbers. I remember
yeah,
that.
yeah, they were the
Yeah,
Roto-Rooter guys, and they had the little shop where you'd go in the beginning, and then they would sit down with the receptionist or the assistant, and then they would talk about the case, you know, and they're like, "Okay, we're on our way." So, and I really liked that show. I mean,
mm,
it was, you know, pretty decent at the time. Of course, Grant Wilson and Jason Hawes fell out. um
yeah.
the circumstances are still not clear to me. I don't really know, and I don't ask them when I see them. So I'm just like,
Well,
huh.
when for me that tap show for me was the first time I'd ever been exposed to actual investigations, right? Because prior to that, I'd watched shows like Sightings, and I did know ghost stories, but I
Yeah,
had never seen someone with like, oh, they're using actual equipment. They're using like what do you call those electromagnetic frequency meters, EMF meters, right?
EMF or K2s
They're
or
using like
whatever they
thermal
had at the time.
cameras. That was like the first time
Yeah.
I had ever seen it myself. All right,
Yeah.
the EVPs. That was my first exposure to any of that. Was that original
Right.
show, right?
Right.
Now it's so commonplace, but the first time you ever even see an EVP in actual use, right, is
Mm-hmm.
taps.
Yep. Yep. It was, right there along the same line. I'm going to go into my third one is
Okay.
Brad and Barry Clean. Now, they actually had the first show that I could possibly remember.
Mhm.
Yeah, they're Everyday Paranormal.
Yeah.
It was called Ghost Labs or Coast Lab. Um, and what made them cool is they didn't follow a script. It's kind of like they went in there and they did what investigators do. They didn't
Mhm.
follow the TV script. You know what I mean? Which made that really cool to me. I know them personally, and they're still really cool people for me
Oh, you know
today.
those
So
guys?
I do know those guys. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
you ever get them on a show?
yes, we've had them on our show. Yes,
Oh, I gotta go
yeah,
back and check that one out.
yeah,
You're gonna have to show me which one that is later. I'd be interested in see.
yeah.
Do you think,
And
by the way,
oh,
do you think Zach Bagans does podcasts? Do you think there's any possibility of us landing him as a podcast guest? Do you think it could be done?
if you paid
Could it
him
be
enough
done?
money, I'm sure he would go on any show
How come you never see him at, like, conventions?
because he doesn't think he has to. I mean, he makes enough money. He doesn't think he has to.
Until he doesn't start making money, when his
Right,
career declines and it's harder for him to get gigs, I bet you
right.
then you'll see him at conventions.
Right. I mean, but you see people, like I said, from like Jason Hawes, you see him all the time. Him and Steve Gonzalez and
Mhm.
Tango, and you see all them guys all over the place. They're all over the place.
Yeah.
And it I think they genuinely like the public. I think they really love talking to the fans, getting out there, meeting people, going and doing stuff. Um, Jason Hawes is this is where this is going to meet, like January 27th. In It's called Shirts, SCHERTZ, Shirts,
Mhm.
Texas.
Yeah.
Everyday Paranormal, which is Brad and Barry Kling, are having a conference. Well, Jason Hawes is going to be there.
Mhm.
So, we're really excited about that. So, and of course, Blondes and Booze is going to be there. So they do still have tickets available, and I think they have a ghost hunt, or I don't know what's really going on, but yeah, just get on to Facebook, Everyday Paranormal, and you can look that stuff up. It's really super cool, but it's amazing how these people on these shows, these TV shows, know one another, and they're constantly, most except for
Mhm.
Zach, because Zach doesn't do anything for anybody, but they will do stuff for each other and go to their events and things like that, which is really pretty cool. um
Hmm.
but Zach doesn't, just saying.
Yeah, but I mean, people who look like that with their shirts off can get away with things.
Well, if
There
that
was a
was
time there was a time, Brandy, when I was in my 20s when I did look like that with my shirt off, and believe you me, I got away with a lot of bullshit.
Yeah, we all look different in our 20s.
Yeah, he's actually, I looked up his actual age. He was born in '77. He's 3 years older than me.
Yeah, he's not a young guy anymore.
No, not anymore.
No,
Mm.
no. And I just, one day, his kingdom is going to fall. It's already starting as it is.
Yeah,
Just
well, I
let you know
mean,
that, Donnie.
I just figured we're in the different side of the paranormal world. We're in that whole YouTube world, right? And I never
We
hear his
are.
name being mentioned. I never hear anyone do a show that just dedicated to the number one guy in the other side of the paranormal world, the cable
No,
TV world,
no,
even though
no.
he's the number
But,
one guy.
you know, if you want to go to YouTube now, the Foreman brothers in, I think it's Paranormal Nightmare. and they're the Foreman brothers. Now they
Hmm.
do awesome shows because they do real work. You
Hmm.
know, they do residential investigations mostly. They do residentials, but they do go out to the big places too. I mean, my daughter and I, we went to Ashmore States in Illinois just a couple weeks ago, and they were there just a month or so ago before
Hmm.
that. So, I mean, it's kind of like we trail around each other and going places, but they are really cool. They're genuine from what I can tell and what I could see. Um,
Hmm.
their lives are funny because they'll just be sitting there and then they're commenting and they're giving shout outs and talking to people, and they're really down to earth guys, but they do awesome work. I mean, they really do help a lot of people. And that's, I guess now that I'm older, that's what I'm really looking for, is people that help versus, making you scared of everything. They at least help you deal with things, which is nice.
Hmm. So, what would you say were some of your, okay, not some of, how about this? Let's make it more interesting. What was your all-time favorite of these shows, of these like reality ghost investigation shows, right? Of these cable paranormal shows, what was your number one all-time favorite?
Taps.
Taps.
Hmm. Yeah. Because when I got turned on to Ghost Labs, then they were not renewed for a new season. I was kind of like, well, that's bad.
Hmm.
They didn't get renewed, so I was like, well, okay. So I watched all their old stuff, and then um but then Taps was there, and they're going and still going strong, but they're now known as ghost hunters. Grant Wilson started Ghost Nation. That's what it was. Ghost Nation. That only lasted for like 2 seasons. But I know some people from Ghost Nations like Brian Murray,
Hmm.
and he's a really cool guy too. He doesn't actually live that far from me, about 3.5 hours from me. And he's just a really cool guy, and they do some great stuff. And
Yeah.
he's got his own paranormal group up there. And um, but Grant Wilson just kind of poof, just disappeared.
Okay, Penny just said that she had to leave because she was getting all vomity from the background. I think it's beginning to bother some people, so let's change backgrounds
Okay.
to be something less vomit inducing. Psych, Jamie Oliver,
No.
the ultimate vomit inducer. Fuck that guy, by the way. If you missed that show, I hate
Exactly. I
that
was just
guy.
like, no,
Okay, how about
no.
this? Nice, serene background. How about
There it
this?
is. There it
There we
is.
go.
That's
All right.
nice.
Can I tell you my favorite ghost reality show of all time? Dead Files.
Yes.
Dead Files is actually the show I would say that got me into the paranormal topic to begin with, because I very much watched it by accident. So I was just working at my buddy's restaurant, just helping out, but we would all, because our apartments were like we lived together, like we were roommates, but the
Mhm.
restaurant that he owned was like around the corner from where we lived. So I would just be there every
Uh-huh.
day. Just, he'd give me free dinner. I would help out when it got busy, and we would always have the same table, and it was just a hangout. But the TV
Right.
would always be running, but we never had a remote, so it was always just on the travel channel. So I'd be
Right.
sitting there all day, and this is before I ever even had a thought about the paranormal. And I'd be
Hmm.
like watching Dead Files, and I'd be like, "Holy shit, are ghosts real?" And then I get sucked in. And but the reason why I got sucked in is because I had seen Taps before and those other
Hmm.
investigation shows like randomly on
Hmm.
TV, right?
Hmm.
Dead Files is different because one, there's no equipment. There's no EVP meters, night vision goggles, thermal vision. There's none of that. No tech stuff. It's just
Nope.
history, the eyewitness accounts, and the psychic readings. That's it.
Right.
That is
Yep.
it, right?
Yep.
But the thing that I really like about that show over the other ones, it's like it gives you the ghost's point of view.
It does.
because
It
Steve
does.
DeShavi goes into their life story, right? You get to learn
Oh,
everything about their family history. Oh, this guy was a guy from like the 1800s who was an asshole and his wife died, right? And it kind of makes sense that they're seeing the ghost of this guy. And then Amy's like getting a reading of like his emotions and his thought process. And
uh-huh.
what you're getting is basically it's a ghost investigation show, but from the point of view of the ghost.
Mhm.
That's why Dead Files was my favorite show out of all of them.
Well, how do you feel now that Cindy Kaza is gonna take over for Amy?
I've actually watched a few of those shows, and she's good.
Yeah. I
She's
like her
good.
a lot. Yes,
She's
I
good.
like her a
Yeah.
lot. Um, I've watched her on several different things. I haven't got to meet her yet. I
Mhm,
will.
mhm.
Um, but yeah, she when I watch her, see her on interviews or anything, I am just simply amazed by her.
Mhm. And, she, I follow her on Instagram. I also follow Amy Allen on Instagram and Steve
Mhm.
DeShavi. Like, I got so obsessed with the show that I would, like, find podcasts that they're on because I had to find out for myself, like, "Is this for real? Is there some bullshittery going on here?" But I found a
Right.
few podcasts of people who had been guests, and they interviewed them, like, with their experience with the show and everything. And
Uh-huh.
then one of another friend of mine, Cisco, who I used to do a show with, she was actually friends with Amy, and then I saw another interview with one of the crew members. It's pretty legit. I mean, it's really like that. They don't cross paths at all until the end.
Mhm. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. What is that show that Cindy Kaza did right before this one? She was on there with Dave Schrader.
I don't know.
Um, oh my gosh. Was it Ghosts of Devil's Perch? I think it might have been that
Hmm.
one because it was KD Stafford, Dave Schrader, and her. I believe that was pretty interesting. That was pretty
Hmm.
interesting. Um, because they had the other one, oh my goodness. The Ghost of Morgan City. I had to remember that. That's when they were down in Louisiana. And it had Jeremy Leonard, it had Katie Stafford, Ben Hansen, and Sarah Lamos. And that was pretty cool. Sarah Lamos is a great psychic medium,
Hmm.
also to keep an eye on. She's really cool. And the funniest thing is that they're all friends. When they get
Yeah.
together at places, you see them all hanging out and all that kind of good stuff. So, um, but they're they're fun.
The
They're
thing I
fun.
really like about Cindy Kazar though is that I've discovered through her Instagram that I think her boyfriend or her husband or whoever is an Asian guy. So I'm like, "Oh, she likes the
Yes,
Asian dudes."
she got engaged. I don't know if she got married
Yeah.
yet or not.
I'm just saying if that doesn't work out, Donny Cho might have a shot.
You might. You might have to
Hmm.
write her a love letter.
I mean, I gotta wait for that to like, if it fails or if something happens, I'm not saying I'm planning, but, if it turns out it doesn't work out.
Well, you can always drop the bug now, you know. Just
No,
say,
I mean,
well, if
I'm
anything,
sure the guy looks like a very nice guy. I hope they're very happy together, I'm just
yeah,
saying, if it doesn't work out, I might have a shot there.
you might. You
Never
might.
know. Yeah. Okay, can I tell you about my next favorite paranormal reality show? And this
You've
one,
been
folks,
yeah.
oh my god, it's like one of those it's like a hidden gem. It's like one of those things that are so good, but nobody knows about. But it kind of feels cool that I'm like the only one who knows about how great this show was because I was apparently the only person who ever watched it, but it was
Yes.
gold. It was gold. Let me find it for you. This was the best, like it was the most entertaining. Where's the overlay section? Here we go. Ghosts in the Hood. So this show was only on for like one season. I believe there were about 6 or 7 episodes ever. And I do know that I first found out about it on Hulu. So it was on Hulu. It's not there now. But now I do believe that all episodes are available to watch on YouTube. So those of
Oh,
you who are
okay.
curious, you can literally go on YouTube and look it up. It's called Ghost in the Hood. Just look up full episode. I'm pretty sure it's up there. Brandi, it's so good. It's so
I
good.
know. You got it. You got me interested in it now. I'm going to have to at least watch an episode or
It's
two
so
just to
good.
see if I like it.
It's so funny,
Because
right?
my question to
Mhm.
you is it like Ghost Brothers?
It is kind of
Can
like that, but more ridiculous. But more ridiculous, like ridiculous. It would be like if okay, imagine if Taps, okay, imagine this scenario. If you had Taps, but then on the team, you had Chris Tucker on there, being
Oh
Chris
my
Tucker,
gosh.
but he's actually like legitimately funny too. But then everyone
Mm.
else is like trying real hard to be serious. So because they're trying real hard to be serious, he just sits there and cracks on them all the time. And because they're trying to be serious, that's what makes it so good and so funny.
Okay,
And
so
then
so
there'll be
here it
these,
is. When I'm watching this, are you sure it's more like Chris Tucker or is it more like Kevin Hart?
yeah, he does. Oh, okay. No, he's somewhere in between there. He's got a
In
bit of a
between.
Kevin
Okay,
Hart to him.
okay. Because
The
I want
dude
to
is
know what I'm
legitimate.
looking for.
He is legitimately funny. His timing is immaculate. Like they'll have parts in the show where they're interviewing like the owners of the properties and they're recounting their paranormal experiences and they're all scared and shit. And this guy will just drop the funniest, most random line, like right in the middle of like the most like awkward moment.
You're kind of like
It's so good. It's so good, Brandy. And then there's this one part where he actually was at an exorcism. Like they had to do an exorcism on him because a ghost like attached itself to him. Oh
oh
boy.
no.
Oh boy, Brandy.
Oh
And again, like
no.
he will get attacked the most, but whenever he gets attacked, like he flips the fuck out. Like he screams like a woman, like all high pitched, and he's like running around like a chicken, like panicking. It's so goddamn funny.
And maybe that's how he copes is making jokes because he's
It's
really
so good.
scared.
It's so good. Griff knows. He's seen it. It's funny, but at the same time, the people who are serious are legitimately like actually trying to investigate.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
such a genius show. It's such a shame that like nobody watched it because it was like if you like paranormal stuff and you like to laugh, it's the best show ever.
Well, there have been times where I mean it's like you go out there and you're investigating and then it turns into I don't know, a comedy show because it
Yeah, but they
happens.
don't try to
It
portray like
happens.
that. Yeah, they always try to portray like it's all serious all the time.
Right. No, it isn't. It isn't because and I'm telling myself here because sometimes when things happen, like I'll be just absolutely quiet, and there may be someone else, or maybe two or three of us, and we'll
Mhm.
be sitting there, we'll be quiet and all this, and next thing you know, like something will bang or whatever. And then you'll hear me, and I start speaking in tongues that nobody's ever heard of. I'll be like,
Mm.
and I can't tell you how many times that has happened over the years. And I should just make a blooper reel of that.
Yeah.
know? I'm like, oh my God, I should have bought a Honda or something. You just don't know. And I can see where people would, bring in a little bit of comedy to ease their nerves or to cope with what's happening.
Yeah.
I get it.
Um, that reminds me. I have another story I got to share with you. Speak of comedy and the paranormal. I got to tell you about the time I actually made a ghost laugh during an investigation. It was actually right before that story I told you about the guy getting attacked by the ghost.
Right?
This happened like maybe 30 minutes before. Okay. Remember how I told you when the story started, we're all in separate groups?
Yes.
Okay. So during the investigation, we are basically in like the room that we were in, it was like the secret room that they busted a door down, or not a door,
Okay,
a
wait a
wall
minute. Wait,
down.
I got a question. I got a question real
Mhm.
quick. Is this before or after you pooted?
Oh no, the poo story was a completely different house, like the
Okay.
next
All
year.
right.
Yeah,
All right. Got it.
this
Got
is
it.
when I had already had several investigations under my belt.
Okay.
So yeah, I would never do that on my first investigation. That would just be dumb. Yeah, no, I had already been around the block a bit, so I knew what to do.
All right.
Yeah,
I
that
think you
was a
still
different
would have done
story.
it though.
No, yeah, I would have never dared to do that on my first time. So this is my first time ever, right? Where I saw that dude
Hmm.
get straight up attacked. So right
Right.
before that, we were all in our separate rooms, right? It's me, Tony Merkel, Laura, you guys, some of you
Mm.
guys may know, and a few other people we had just met. We are in basically the room where they recently discovered, and it was like bricked up behind a wall. So they tore the wall down and they discovered like this weird, creepy, like children's nursery with all the original
Ooh.
toys in there. So we
Ooh.
sat in there and we were doing like it was not an EVP. Well, it was we had the EVP going, but it was the EMF where it would beep, right?
Hmm.
But it would beep to your question. So you would ask a yes, no question
Yeah.
and it would beep, right? So the
Yeah.
whole time we're sitting there in the dark, no powers, no electricity, no lights, just these EMF readers, EVP recorders. We're asking questions and it doesn't beep at all. And everyone's going around the room and asking like, "Hey, beep once if you're here," right? And at one time it would like randomly beep, but we couldn't tell if that was anything, right?
Right.
And everyone's going around the room asking like really serious questions or asking like probing questions about the ghost, except me. I'm the only one who's actually sitting inside the nursery. The other people are like in the room, like right outside it. I'm actually sitting in it. And then I'm looking at all the pictures of all these people that, were the ghosts of. There's this family from, like, the 1910s, right? I'm looking at their clothes. This is a time when people dress up in three-piece suits just to go grocery shopping, right?
Right.
And I'm looking at the group. I'm looking at all the guys and the girls. It's July. All the girls are wearing, like, jean shorts and flip-flops and crappy T-shirts or tank tops, right? Everyone's wearing
Right.
shorts. So then the first question I ask is, sorry, hi, my name is Donny. I just had a quick question. Looking at all our clothes right now, do you think our clothes look really stupid? And it just started beeping out of control because I
Oh my
realized,
goodness.
they're in their mindset, they are the type of people who wear these kinds of clothes. They're looking at us right now and being like, what the hell are these women wearing right now?
Yeah. Put some clothes on.
Because yeah, because they'd be wearing, remember, if you look at pictures of women back then, they'd be wearing these long ass
Yeah.
dresses in the middle of July.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm
Probably telling
thinking
them
like,
put the
okay, these
clothes
girls are
on.
probably looking at these people, what they're wearing. They're just like, what the hell are you aliens? So the first question I asked is, could you just beep if you think the clothes we're wearing are like really, and it was beeping like crazy. Everyone was amazed. And then people were laughing. But
Hmm.
yeah, I cracked a joke and I think I made
Wow.
a ghost laugh.
Yeah. Yeah, because I do the same thing. I'll get into a location and I don't ask the questions, are you male or are you female or how old are you? Do you know what year it is? I
No, my
hate doing
question
it.
was, hey, ghosts, aren't these living people, they're, don't they look like fools? And the ghost is
Uh,
like, yeah, they do look like fools.
right.
Yeah, I
Right.
was kinda trying
Y-
to, you know?
Yes. That's perfect. Because I get in there and ask stupid questions like, hey, do you like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches? And I'll get answers. My favorite one is, "What's your favorite kind of cookie?" And then I got an answer. It said
Yeah.
oatmeal.
So the way I
Yeah,
thought of it at the time was, don't think of it like you're talking to a ghost, think of it like you're talking to someone from 1910.
just anybody. Ask them normal
Yeah,
questions you would ask another normal human being.
yeah,
You wouldn't. I wouldn't be like, "Hey, Donnie, are you male? Or are you female?"
yeah. Alright.
You know what I mean? I'm not going to ask you that question. I mean, you're here.
Okay,
I
so
wouldn't
for
ask the
example,
question.
if I ever, had to
Ask a
talk
normal
to
question.
if I ever had to talk to like a Civil War ghost that was like at Gettysburg, right? I think
Right?
Gettysburg took place in like the summer. My question to the ghost would be, so how was the weather? And the ghost would be like, oh man, it was hot and clammy, man. It sucked. I was like, oh man, yep. Clammy ass Pennsylvania summer weather. It
Yeah.
sucks there sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of that, the Kling brothers, who I was talking about earlier, they have some fantastic EVPs from Gettysburg. They have like you can hear cannons going off, all kinds
You
of
ever
stuff.
been?
No, it's on my bucket list. It's on
Oh,
my
Brandy,
bucket
that's gotta
list.
be
A big one.
a big
It's
one.
a
That's a
big,
big one.
big, big one.
That's
You know.
like you know how Roswell, well, I've never been to Roswell, but I would imagine that if you go to Roswell, there's a lot of places that are just like alien and UFO like souvenirs and merchandise. That's what
Correct.
Gettysburg is for
Crap.
ghosts. Yeah.
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 Yeah. And that's what's sad about it because you can't really go without thousands of people being out there,
Yeah.
and getting on a
It,
tour bus.
it's kind of interesting though. You're walking down the street and you're looking into like a storefront display window and
Hmm.
it's displaying like ghost hunting gear, like EVP recorders and stuff. It's like that.
Really?
Yeah, and there's like a sign for a ghost tour like on almost every corner of the downtown area. It's
See,
pretty
and I would take all
ridiculous.
of them. I would take all of
It's
them.
pretty ridiculous.
Yeah. I would
Yeah.
take all of them. And then I start critiquing them. I'm like, well, that's not what the guy on that tour said.
Mhm.
It's not what he said. So what's true?
Hold on. Serious question. Do ghosts know that they are dead? If that is what they are, if that is what they really are, do you want to answer that, Brandy?
Yeah. Sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't.
Hmm.
I mean, sometimes they're just going about their daily life as if they were
Hmm.
still alive, which in terms of what we would call kind of residual. It, it's like a loop in the action. It just keeps repeating itself, repeating itself, repeating itself. They're just going about their day as they normally had, when they were alive, and they don't know any different. Um, but then we have what's called intelligent entities, and yes, they do know that they are gone, and they can communicate with you. And those are the ones that
Those are the
everybody
shifty
wants to talk
ones.
to.
But those
Yeah,
are the shifty
everybody wants
ones.
to everybody wants to talk to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody wants to talk to them. But, like I
But
said, you go to places that are over hunted and they won't talk to you at all, probably.
my answer to Moon at Noon's question is first and foremost, I forgive your all caps because you are a fellow Marylander, and we Marylanders have to stick together. So your all caps is forgiven. But secondly, yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with Brandy. I think the majority of them don't realize that they're dead, or the majority of them are more like psychic, I guess, replays of events, like
Mhm,
caught in a constant loop. Those
mhm.
those e- those phenomena, I would say, are probably just a memory, like a psychic
A,
imprint, right? But
residual
yes,
energy is what I'd like to
yeah,
say.
residual haunting, yeah,
Yes,
or the stone tape theory, is some people would like to go there. But
right.
I do agree that there are some that are aware that they are
Hmm.
dead. They're not as
Hmm.
common, and they're probably not very trustworthy because, yeah, probably not very trustworthy.
Yeah,
I
well,
wouldn't. Yeah.
and I'm gonna throw this out to you, Donnie. Do you know that's who you're really talking to? Do you know?
Yeah, there's that too. Yeah, there's
Yeah,
that
you
too.
don't know. You don't know. So, I mean, take it for what it is. If you happen to hear something or speak to something, da 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 da, take it for what it is and what you heard, not that it's that exact
Yep.
person. It may be somebody completely different pretending to be someone else because we run up against tricksters
Mhm.
all the time that like to play jokes and pretend to be
Yeah.
something they're not. Um, you know,
So the one at the Hoover House, I did know because I already knew about this. I already heard the story about the ghost that was in the basement before I went there and farted on it. But I'd already
right.
heard its story. But based off what I understood of the Hoover House, that ghost do believe was aware that it was dead. But
Possibly, yeah.
because of all the other ghosts throughout the house, that ghost was only able to stay in that one spot. So a self-aware ghost that can only stick to one spot, and that is why it was so much more satisfying when I farted in his face.
So w- I yeah, I don't know if I agree with that 100%.
Yeah,
I think they sometimes they stick with what they know.
yeah, yeah,
They're not stuck.
yeah.
Um, because I've noticed like in some places that I've hunted where you think you know every entity or spirit that's
Mhm.
in there, and then all of a sudden you get a new one.
Mm.
You're like, where did you come from? Who are you and why are you here? Something totally different. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, there's always that. I call them transients. Those
I
happen more
think
than anything.
one of the things you do notice about a lot of these ghosts and, like, the activity and what they do, a lot of
Mm.
it is stuff they would do if they were still alive, right? This is like
Yes.
going in line with their personality or the kind of person they are or the kind of thing they would do.
Yes.
For example, you never hear about someone dying and becoming a ghost, but then completely deviating from their normal behavior, right?
Yes.
You never have like a
Yes.
gangster who killed all these people become a ghost, and then as a ghost, he's like, "Oh wait, I'm a ghost now. Might as well take up knitting." Never.
Right.
They're
No.
always
No.
continuing to follow the same patterns, right?
Right, right. Well,
So if they're
here's a
just a
case.
victim of their own patterns.
Right. It's a case in point. I'm gonna tell you a
Mhm,
personal story. My dad, whenever I would go to his and my mother's house, now they live about 70 miles from where I do now, or used to live
mhm,
70 miles from where I do now. And every time I'd go over there, well, I you'd have to go in the back door, and then you'd have to open another door to go in the kitchen. Every time I'd come over, he could see me coming. And he'd get behind that second door and just stand there and put his weight on it so I couldn't open the door.
mm,
And he would get me that way every single time. And I, d- and I'm always, let me in. Will you stop? Quit it. Anyway, so after my father had passed, um, my mother came to live with me a few years later, and she was in the kitchen cooking, and I come through the first door from the garage, and then I that goes into the washroom, and then I'm entering the second door that goes into the kitchen. I go to the second door to get in the kitchen, and the door would not open, as
mm,
if somebody were leaning on it to not let me in. I have never had a problem with that door, and I've never had a problem with it since.
hmm.
So that just leads me to believe that maybe he popped in to say hi and he saw me coming in and like, ha ha ha, I'm gonna get her.
Mhm.
But, just as he had done that while he was living, he did that after he passed. So I mean, you can see that they have the same kind of mannerisms, and you can
Yeah.
tell.
I
And
would
especially if you investigate a location enough, you'll get to know each specific
yeah.
personality.
They're just following what they were in life, right?
Yeah,
Just following the
yeah,
exact same mental patterns.
absolutely. Absolutely.
I guess, one of the ways I heard someone put it was, I think it was Edgar Casey, where what a ghost really are, it's don't see, I don't try to think of it as a disembodied soul. Like what you are in the afterlife, your soul. A
Yeah.
ghost is not like your soul that soul that didn't cross over. I think it's a remnant, it's a psychic remnant of your mind, not your soul,
Right.
right? Like your soul would still pass, but maybe there's like but aspects of your mind remain.
Yeah.
And those aspects of your mind have a psychic imprint on the current reality, and that's what ghosts really are.
It's just residual energy. That's because energy never goes away. It's always here. It never goes away.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah,
think they, once their body, they have left their body, their soul is still energy, which is still here,
yeah.
or it goes on, but it's still energy nonetheless.
Well, I mean, in the I guess my own personal definition of what a soul is a little bit different from I guess the modern classic Western version of it.
Right.
See, because I come from a belief system of like reincarnation. So
Okay. Yeah.
the idea of reincarnation is that what your soul actually is, it's not what's in your body that dies. It's basically what's in your body that dies is your consciousness, right? But every incarnation is a different consciousness, but the same soul. So basically, what the soul actually is, it's actually a combination of all of those consciousnesses from all different timelines and incarnations, all as
Mm-hmm.
one. So, like, what's inside your body isn't actually what crosses over. It's actually your consciousness is just a small piece, like a small fraction of what that thing is.
Okay. Okay.
So
Yeah,
the
that's
way
a
I see
different way of looking
ghosts,
at it.
I see the ghost as not really the soul, but more like a remnants of the consciousness.
There you go. Yeah,
Which
that's a
leads
great
to
way
the
to put that.
question could someone die, reincarnate, and then meet the ghost of their previous incarnation?
That is a good question.
That's a head scratcher right there.
So, do you think that because of that, that past live regression sessions would work or help determine who you were before?
Um, I can't speak on that because it depends on the practitioner and the subject.
Yeah, true, true, true.
I mean,
I mean,
I've had readings, like psychic readings, like past life readings done on me,
mhm, right.
and they've matched up with like dreams that I've had prior to going to the meeting where I'm like,
Mhm,
I kind of have to take this seriously,
mhm.
you know? Or like I've had certain paranormal experiences myself where it was like a flashback to like a previous incarnation where I was like, whoa, what the hell was that?
Yeah, more like a deja vu moment, like
N-
a,
Not even that. More like something got beamed into my head, like an image.
oh, okay, okay. Hmm.
And these were all when I was doing like like, because I used to do a lot of like Zen meditation and yoga. I used to like meditate a lot.
Right.
And this is when I would like meditate because these two of those times when I was in like a deep meditation session.
Mhm.
And then, my brain waves were like really alpha. And then bam, it was a photo of a little Asian girl from like the 1940s, black and white, like a portrait of like a 2-year-old Asian
Wow.
girl. It was like someone just blasted that in my brain. I was like, "What the hell was that?"
Right.
And then like a year later, when I got my past life reading, they said, and again, I gave them no clue about this experience. I was just like, "Oh, you did
Mhm.
past life readings? How does this work?" And then, she told me, she explained. I was like, "Okay, I'll do it. Here's $50."
Mhm.
And the first thing she said was, "Yeah, you were your previous incarnation before your incarnation now was you were a young girl like in Asia who died at around like 2 or 3 years old.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And this is like this is the mulligan, my life,
Yeah.
the do-over."
Wow. That's pretty cool.
Mhm.
I don't even know what to say about that. That is just that just you just stumped me. I'm just
Yeah.
like, oh.
So yeah,
Wow.
it's I was about to make a really terrible joke about like dead children, but I was like, nah.
Yeah.
Let's think better of
Not
that.
tonight. Not
Nah,
tonight.
nah, not tonight. Okay, so any final words? I think we could leave it at here. Did you have fun?
I did.
Yes.
The time just flew by.
By the way, I got to tell you something that I've always wanted to tell you, Brandi. I think you got the coolest fucking name in the world. You know why I
Thanks.
think your name is so cool? Brandi
Why
Butcher.
is
Number
that?
one, alliteration. I always love alliteration names. That's why I like Robbie's name. Robbie Reigns, Brandi
Right.
Butcher. But
Right.
the main reason why I love your name so much is because it sounds so much like a female pro wrestling character's name.
It
Brandi
does,
Butcher.
doesn't it? Like
And like
Brandy
your pro
the
wrestling. Yeah, like if you were no, not even Brandi the. It could just be Brandi Butcher, and then you when you would come out from behind the curtains, you would have like this bloody apron, and you'd be carrying a meat cleaver, and everyone in the crowd would be booing you, and then come into the ring, Brandi
Yeah.
Butcher, and then you know what would
Yeah.
freak people out when they would be like, "Yo, what's that woman's real name?" And they look it up, and they're like, "Her real name is Brandi Butcher." Damn, this lady's hardcore.
She was born to be here.
Yes, and then your tagline, what would be your tagline? You'd be like, "I'm here to chop some meat."
Right?
Yeah.
Right? Exactly. Now I'm gonna have to start saying that. I want to hear it.
Yeah.
Chop some meat.
Anyway. Yeah, I guess we'll leave it here unless you got anything else you wanna.
Nope,
All right.
that's
Anyway,
it for me right now.
yeah, this is by the way. Oh yeah, another quick thing about the show before I head out. Yeah, this is our new time slot. Jason will be missed.
Yes, he
Goodbye,
will.
dear friend. Wherever you shall be, we will miss you. However, yeah, this is my new time slot now, so screw that guy. Yay!
Yeah, but
It's
we
my
just get to
show.
call him up and go, hey, if we miss him.
Yeah.
Hey, Jason.
Yeah. Actually, when I feel like having a podcast with Jason, usually I'll just give him a call and be like, "Hey, do you want to just talk about stuff?" And we'll just sit there talking about like
Yeah,
stupid stuff.
he's really good about that. So he is
Yeah.
not gone. He is
He's not
just
gone.
he's just not doing his own show anymore.
Okay, guys. Can I be real honest with you? Okay, now it's time to get real.
Uh-oh.
Brandi, I'm about to give him a peek behind the curtain here.
Okay.
So I'll be honest. The real reason why Jason left this whole podcast, his show and everything, honestly, folks, he just had better shit to do. I mean, he did. Literally.
He did.
He literally
He
just sounds
did.
like, "Nah, I got better shit to do." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"You do have better shit to do."
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I mean, as much as we love to be on here, there are things that we still want to do in life. And
Yeah.
as we know, this takes a big chunk out of it. You know,
It
you're
does.
limited. You're
It
limited.
does. And it can be
But
stressful sometimes.
it is, but I wouldn't give it
Yeah.
up. Mm-mm. I
No,
like it too
neither
much.
would I. I love this too much. This is fun.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm at like work and I'm looking at my boss and I'm like, I wonder if my boss knows that I'm a minor internet celebrity with a lowercase m.
You're
know.
making me choke.
All
Oh,
right, guys. I think that's it for now, folks. So we'll see you next time. Oh yeah, and another thing, in case you wanted to know, whenever you see my show, if the title has a number on it, like Donny Cho says stuff number 17 or 18, just know that that means it's a pre-recorded show. I plan on doing some pre-records to match people's schedules better. When it says DCSS live, all caps, that means we're live. Okay, in case people need to ask. I mean, this ain't fucking rocket science, folks. Okay, so
if it's got a number, it's recorded.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it ain't rocket science. Okay, good night, folks. Bye.
Bye, everybody.